great medicine fails every day because the system around it is broken. Today's guest proves that.
It's not the product, it's not that people don't want it, it's they're not getting the message. The idea with the dinner seminar that I still love is that it's one to many. Just getting access to products is not going to make your med spa successful. You have to know how to talk about them.
How often would you recommend someone do stem cells?
If you're healthy, I personally do.
Where do you see the biggest risk in the telehealth space?
I would say the biggest risk would be...
What's up, everyone? Welcome back to Compound Wisdom. I'm your host, Steve Sood. Here's the truth. Great medicine fails every day because the system around it is broken. Today's guest proves that. Seth Berge didn't come from medicine. He actually came from high-ticket sales. People either say yes or they don't. When Seth entered the regenerative health space, he found something extremely uncomfortable. The demand was real, but the delivery was broken. Doctors were expected to sell, patients were expected to travel, follow-ups were inconsistent. He removed friction. He rebuilt the model around trust, ownership of the relationship, and convenience. The first proof point came early. It was a $175,000 week from a single mailing. Today, Seth operates at a completely different level. His focus, building compliance systems, educating patients, and really helping shape where the regenerative health space is headed next. Now, today, we're going to be talking about stem cell myths, why friction kills conversion, how ego slows growth, and really why Seth believes regulation is actually a competitive advantage. Seth, welcome to Compound Wisdom. Now, Seth, how in the heck did you get into stem cells?
People ask me that all the time. They're kind of waiting for like a sexy story of getting some sort of injury and getting cured miraculously. I mean, I am a user of stem cells. I do have personal stories, but since I've been 19, I've been into direct to consumer high ticket sales throughout a bunch of different industries. So about 8.5 years ago, when I was I was already doing dinner seminars for financial services. I'd done home improvement dinner seminars, built up sales organizations. I attended a marketing conference where there was a chiropractor there that was pushing kind of like a business in a box for this new thing, this new health care phenomenon, stem cell therapy. And it was high ticket. It was direct to consumer. The margins were there. So I looked at it with a former partner that I'd done a lot of other stuff with. And we said, we're doing pretty well with what we're doing, but this does really seem to fit our model of direct to consumer. We obviously did some research and we found out the demand is there. It is up and coming. Ran the financial numbers and, decided that we would give it a try. So, I kind of went in, I didn't completely quit. I didn't give up exactly fully what I was doing because I kind of wanted to see how this would go. And I had a little bit of a rocky start that we'll probably talk about, but, that was about 8.5 years ago. And, so it's not a super sexy story. It was a business opportunity. I kind of pride myself on, being open to, whatever good ideas are out there. But I will tell people this all the time. This is a heck of a lot more interesting than talking about retirement planning or home improvement or energy bills. Yeah. So I'm extremely glad that my business mind was able to look at this and see the opportunity, because it's without a doubt been the most fulfilling and rewarding, not just financially, but just helping people, being in a really cool space that's up and coming. So whether you call it dumb luck or being open to anything, which is probably a good skill set for the most part if you're an entrepreneur, that's how I fell into it. Yeah.
Nice. That's amazing. You mentioned something there was a hiccup early on. Can you touch on that a little bit?
Yeah, so the original way that I was going to do this was, I've been really good at dinner seminar marketing. Not just good, it's all I've done since I was 23. Yeah. So we know how to use direct mail demographics to fill a seminar room full of your ideal patient profile type of people. So we were going to do that passively and have the physicians or the chiropractors or the clinic owners give the talk, give the seminar, do the closing. We were just kind of going to try to do it almost like hands off.
Yeah.
So we did that first, and bless his heart, but the guy that did the presentation, we filled 3 weeks in a row of room. I still remember this in Ohio. Filled the room for him with our marketing. Perfect, ideal demographic. Spent thousands and thousands of dollars on direct mail and steak dinners, and the presentation by the doc didn't convert the leads, and then the leads that they would do where they come to the clinic and the doc would try to close them. They weren't closing anything. People were canceling appointments. We got 0 sales. After about 30, I don't remember, but it's probably about $30,000 worth of marketing for 0 sales.
Wow.
And so then me and my non-medical partner that I got in this with in the beginning were like, we need to scratch this. It's the sales. It's not the product. It's not that people don't want it. It's they're not getting the message. So we just completely flipped the script and said, what if us guys who are salespeople and communicators, we know how to tell a story.
Yeah.
Why don't we do the seminar? We were scared because there's some level of medical stuff, but yeah, we we decided to do the seminars, changed a couple of the friction points, and then did like almost $200,000 in 1 week off of one mailing, and it's been that we just scaled that and replicated it. And it's still one of the businesses that I own today, still doing those dinner seminar, educational seminars direct to consumers.
I love it. Let's kind of talk about, what a seminar is, and then we'll touch on stem cells for people that really don't know much about stem cells in general. But talk about how you're getting this product out to all these people via the seminars.
Yeah, so the thing I love about dinner seminar marketing, and this industry works well for it, but yeah, I'm sure other people that are listening, financial services have been doing it forever, annuities, life insurance, travel industry,
Yeah.
timeshares, travel packages, anything high ticket. The idea with the dinner seminar that I still love is that it's one to many. The sale,
Yeah.
it's a one to many sale. So one of the frustrating parts about being a direct salesperson is starting the pitch from scratch over and over and over again.
Yeah.
Um, the beauty of a dinner seminar is you have a warm lead because they've already raised their hand yes when they get the piece of direct mail, or every now and then we'll use Facebook to bring them in. But the idea is they're already willingly going to you, getting in their car, driving there, agreeing to listen to whatever you tell them generally what you're going to talk to them about. So they're not going in there blind.
Yeah.
So you have a very captive audience. You're breaking bread with them. You get almost 90 minutes to really get warm with them. It starts, I always tell people the very first part of your sale is when you greet them when they walk in the room, look in the eye, shake their hand, make a comment about their outfit or their name or something. But by the time you've bought them dinner, broke bread with them, given them a 60 to 90-minute presentation, it's also, that presentation is not meant to be like a college style lecture. It's meant to tell a story.
Yeah.
You talk about the problem, then you hit them with the solution, you take them through the emotional roller coaster. Then you close for the appointment. That's the key here. You use the seminar to get your appointment for the one-on-one. So if you give a good enough seminar, you're going to get a bunch of warm leads. And then our model is we would go and see them. We'd schedule the one-to-one the very next day. So while the information is fresh, the lead is hot. But the big picture is it is a one-to-many approach. And if you're good at getting your message across, there's really no better way to do a one-to-many approach than a dinner seminar. Now, I know today's world webinars are probably the same idea, and I do some of that as well. But, for a population, especially if you're marketing to a population 55 and above. So obviously, 55 and above is a big demographic of people that use regenerative therapies because they have bad pain. They are still the type of people. Kids are out of the house. They're either retired or almost retired. They will still go to an educational seminar if it's at a decent restaurant. So that's not dead. I say that because people younger are like, oh, I can't believe people are, that's nobody does, nobody goes direct mail. Nobody goes to free dinners. That's just simply not true. Once you get to a certain age, kids are out of the house. Maybe you're retired. It's like, why not check out that steakhouse on a Tuesday night? It's about an interesting subject and we don't have to pay, cook, or clean.
Yep.
So
Absolutely. Now, for somebody that doesn't understand stem cells, explain stem cells to basically if I were a 5-year-old.
So stem cells, there's a lot of different ways to look at it. What made the body can heal the body. Our bodies are made up of stem cells. It's part of how we heal. It's part of how we grew from, think about the rapid growth from when we're born, even for the first couple of years of life. But basically what we use stem cells send healing signals. So if your body is in any sort of degenerative condition, and I'll just talk at a very high level here, the most common thing that people are using stem cells for right now is for degenerative, like soft tissue defects. So if you have a degenerative disc, if you have a cartilage tear, if you have a rotator cuff tear, tendon, muscle, ligament, the idea is if we inject a ton of these stem cells into the area that needs a repair, the stem cells are sending signals to the body to start the natural healing process. So a good way to look at it is completely a different modality of medicine than, say, a cortisone shot or a pain pill. All those are trying to do is address the symptom.
Yeah.
What we're trying to do, a stem cell therapy is a regenerative therapy. The whole purpose if you just break it down simply, is what's the purpose of regenerative therapy? To regenerate. Why would you need regeneration? Only if you have a degenerative condition. So a degenerative condition even would be even an injury from sports medicine. If you're a gym bro
Yeah.
and you got tears in your shoulder from lifting heavy, that is a degenerative condition. You have soft tissue damage.
Yeah.
Put stem cells in the area, it'll get the body to heal naturally. And instead of surgery or getting a bunch of cortisone shots, which are bad for you, you can actually get regeneration. So I always tell people regeneration is the key, it's the opposite of degeneration. And stem cells are what do that.
I love that. There's a huge misconception in the US that, you have to fly to
Yeah,
Panama or Cabo or, wherever to get stem cells. Can you touch on that and why that's a
absolutely.
huge myth?
Yeah, it's probably the one of my biggest passions and purpose for doing this is educating people about how easy it is to get access to it. So I would say, first of all, the reason why that myth is still out there is because up until maybe 10 years this should go, you really had to go overseas to get anything other than your body's own stem cells.
Yeah.
So we use umbilical cord, birthing tissue derived stem cells, which is pretty much what everybody does now,
Yeah.
overseas and in the US. But you couldn't find it. It wasn't necessarily legal or available more than 10 years ago. So the stem cell industry started overseas.
Mhm.
So they kind of had a head start on the marketing and the messaging.
Yeah.
And then what they're really good at, quite honestly, and I'm not even saying this in a bad way, it's just smart marketing. The stem cells, the umbilical cord products, none of them are FDA approved. They're not illegal, they're not unsafe, but they're not a drug, right? The
Yeah.
FDA stands for Food and Drug Administration. They're not listed as a drug. It's human cell and tissue. We're literally just taking the tissue from the stem cells from the birthing tissue, the cords, and implanting that into the area of the body that needs it. But it is not a drug, so it's not classified as a drug. So what the overseas game has done is they've really preyed on the confusion of what FDA approval means, and they get people to think that it's illegal or not available here simply because it's not FDA approved. Well, neither is a multivitamin
Yeah.
or a peptide or half the other shit that people do. And it doesn't mean doesn't work, but if it's not a food or a drug, then the FDA isn't going to approve it, but it doesn't mean that a doctor can't do it. So that's again, a long answer to your short question, but there's a lot of, they really prey on the lack of knowledge and FDA approval and say the only way to get it is here. It's just not true. And more people are catching on.
That.
You don't
Yeah.
have to go
There's stem
overseas.
cell clinics popping up all over.
Everywhere. Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
really awesome
So
to
that's,
see.
yeah. And the other thing they'll say is you can't get real stem cells. I'll just touch on this real quick too.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, you can't get stem cells, real that's also not true. But
They
what they're
say that.
allowed to do, yeah, what they're allowed to do overseas, and it's not even a good thing, but they'll say, we'll give you 400 million mesenchymal stem cells or something. But what they're doing is they're taking some stem cells and they're culturing and expanding them in a petri dish.
Yeah.
So it's like on the 35th iteration of that cell. So if you can get to 400 million cells, well, what they don't tell you is that we don't really know. There's research on this. We don't really know after that first iteration of that cell gets replicated and cultured. And I'm not a microbiologist, but one thing I do know, I don't even know if that's the right word, microbiologist. That's probably whatever. I've heard people who do now say we don't really know on the 5th or 10th iteration of that cell what it's really going to do long term in the body. We also do know that it's not as effective as the first version of it. So in the US, which I think is a good thing, we are not allowed to manipulate any of the birthing tissue. It's got to come straight from the cord right into the vial. Like there's no additives other than saline. We're not allowed to expand or culture the cell. So when we say we're giving you 80 million umbilical cord stem cells, those are all day zero, non-manipulated, non-expanded, non-cultured. They're safe, they're more effective, and I believe that the overseas market, they're good marketers.
Yeah.
They're good at playing that confusion into making it seem like if you want the real stuff, you got to come over here, wink wink, when it's like also some of the overseas clinics are buying and shipping tissue cords, the same stuff we're using in the US, are actually shipping it overseas. So it's kind of a game, it's a racket, but I don't want to talk shit about what other people do because I'm glad anybody's doing stem cells because it's good.
Yeah.
But that's really the game. Yeah.
I love that. There's
one other thing too, real quick, for those of you listening. We are very much not allowed to talk about stem cells as much as we'd like to, meaning there's way more benefit that we can't say here in the States because you got the FDA, the FTC, the attorney generals, the state medical boards that are waiting for somebody like me or a clinic owner or physician to speak about the products as if they're FDA approved. They're really just trying to catch you on that language. Whereas if you're marketing in the United States, but your actual services are being done in Tijuana or right across the border, you're not under, you don't have those same rules. So they're allowed to just say shit that we, to make it sound, you know what I mean? Like there's, if I was able to say in my marketing all the crazy stuff it's done for people, like some of the stuff I can't even really say without 100 disclaimers. They can pretty much say whatever they want overseas. Mexico doesn't have an FTC or an FDA that's up their ass. So, yeah.
Yeah. That's wild. Is there so obviously, with stem cells, a big use case is injuries, but there's this new emerging use case that's coming out too for just overall wellness. Can you
Mm-hmm.
touch on that? I know you
Yeah.
obviously offer that as, and you're getting big into that as well. Even for someone like myself and you, right? We're not, 65 or anything like that. Obviously, you're a little bit older than me. Not much though.
Obviously.
Yeah, we joke about it all the time. But for both of us, obviously, you offer an option for that.
Yeah.
You talk about that and why people are starting to look at it for preventative.
Yep. Yeah. So the huge space now is taking these stem cells and exosomes intravenously.
Yeah,
So it's exactly what it sounds like. You can push, pretty common protocol for us is 80 million umbilical cord stem cells. And then we'll also, most of the time, people will boost that with 180 billion placental derived exosomes. But you push that through intravenously, all those cells and exosomes are going to go where the blood takes it. So heart, lungs, other organs, it's going to find inflammation throughout the body. So remember what the stem cells and the exosomes are designed to do. They're designed to seek out inflammation and immediately control it. They also have amazing immunomodulatory benefits, which basically means it can boost your immune system. It's a very common treatment for people for autoimmune conditions. Now, I say that with the disclaimer, we are not saying that we're treating
yeah,
your autoimmune condition, but we do know what stem cells are designed to do.
yeah,
And if you take them that way, there are many people who've had benefits
yeah,
from the symptoms of their autoimmune condition. See, that's a big difference. The overseas people would be like, "Oh, we're going to cure your Lyme's disease. We can support your immune system. We will support your immune system, which will probably have positive benefits for autoimmune conditions. But longevity, aging, just like people even that have like irritable bowel syndrome is inflammation of the bowels. So we've had a lot of people anecdotally just say that there's symptoms for some of these chronic inflammation that is internal
yeah.
rather than in a joint has been greatly improved by these IV pushes.
Which autoimmune diseases do they have benefits for, as we can say?
Yeah, I mean anything that's basically a lot of. I had a cousin who had Lyme's, and we gave him 3 series of these IVs, and life changing. So
Yeah.
Lyme's disease is an autoimmune condition. We've had people MS that have sworn that have had amazing
Wow.
results. Lupus, irritable bowel. I mean, I could go on. Pretty much any autoimmune condition. The immune system basically attacking itself.
Yeah.
And again, we're not saying we're curing it,
Yeah.
but we're putting things in the body that have a direct correlation to helping with the root cause of why you're having those symptoms. Even a big one, rheumatoid arthritis. Huge
Okay.
one. That's your immune system's attacking you. We've had
Yeah.
a lot of people do a series of IVs, and it's like night and day difference in their quality of life.
So how often would you recommend someone do stem cells? Obviously, for injury, it's different. It's until
Yeah.
it gets better, but just
Yeah.
for overall wellness.
Yeah. So if you're healthy, it's like you and me. I personally do them quarterly.
Okay.
Is that is that overboard? I don't know. I mean, I have access,
Yeah.
so I do it. I do know a lot of high performers, biohackers, things like that will do it quarterly,
Yeah.
once a year, twice a year. There isn't, this isn't like some other forms of medicine where there's a set number. Part of it is what your budget can afford, but I would say at least annually.
Yeah.
Maybe biannually, but it kind of depends on, how much you want to optimize, how much you want to spend, things like that.
Yeah. Which stem cells, are expensive, obviously, right?
Yep.
Where do you think that's going to be? I mean, do you think it's, obviously as more and more people get into it, is that going to get obviously brought down in the next few years? And where do you see it in the next few years?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I got into the space. I haven't seen prices change much.
Yeah. Is it supply and
Uh,
demand?
Supply and demand. I don't see how it. Here's what I see happening. I don't see how somebody for much longer can be drastically. I think the price is going to get a little bit more competitive, meaning it's going to be a little bit more universal. Because right now you might find somebody like me that'll do a really high end service for the low end cost
Yeah.
because my overhead and my access and product and everything.
Yeah.
And then I might see somebody charge 3, 4, 5 times more for the same thing
Yeah.
and still getting away with it because the market is still grossly uneducated.
Yeah.
I gotta believe, like you said earlier in the call, there's a new stem cell clinic popping up. I gotta believe that it's going to start getting a little bit more within range where everybody's kind of in that same range.
Yeah.
That's where I would see it. I don't see it getting a lot less expensive than what the lower end of the pricing is right now because I mean I've already priced it to be the most competitive in the marketplace. There's not a lot lower that people could go, but that's what I would say. I'd say the days of somebody charging $25,000 for something that other people are charging $5,000 for, that's got to be almost over because now people are smarter shoppers
Yeah.
online,
There's
things
a
like
lot
that.
more access coming out now. Like
Yeah.
like we touched on, med spas overall. I don't know if you know this
Yeah.
statistic, but it's scaling exponentially. I think
Hmm.
from last year to this year, there was about 40,000 to over 100,000 in growth. So it more than 2x in terms of med spa locations in the US, which is
Yeah.
wow. And and all of them are not all of them, but a lot of them are now starting to get into stem cells, learn
Mhm.
about stem cells. For people, in that space that want to add stem cells, like what's usually the what's usually the workflow that you offer essentially them to learn about stem cells, offer it as a product, and then training and stuff like that as well.
Yeah. What's funny is people ask me what are the challenges for a provider or a med spa. It's really very similar to a consumer. It's lack of education and lack of access. So first and foremost, um, there's so many, like you said, med spas. They hear stem cells, exosomes, high ticket, high revenue, high profit margins, but they don't know where to go. So maybe they get some lab rep
Yeah,
that will sell them a product, but they don't in maybe a brochure. But
yeah,
the brochure is probably overly scientific, and the end user is not going to get anything out of it. So
yeah,
they've got their hands tied. So I'm glad you asked. I'm going to plug myself here for a minute,
yeah,
but I've got the products. I've got 14 different products right now. The highest concentration products for joints, for IVs, for cosmetic, aesthetics, anything. We've got it all. It's priced the best. It's the best quality. But I always tell people, just getting access to products is not going to make your med spa successful. You have to know how to talk about them.
yep,
Two ways. Compliant, number one. You don't want to get in this industry and get an FDA warning letter. So you got to know how to market and talk about it compliantly. I can, absolutely can and will help with that. But you
yep,
also have to know how to talk to your patients about it.
yeah,
So sometimes people that own a med spa, they just think, oh, we'll tell people we now offer regenerative medicine, and they think people are just going to walk in with $15,000 of cash, 5,000. You still have to. It's business is still sales and marketing, right?
yeah,
I don't care. You still have to be able to communicate the benefits.
yep,
Why does somebody want to spend their hard-earned money?
yeah,
So I will also teach them how I've sold over $100 million worth of therapy packages.
which is
So I don't gatekeep the knowledge.
yeah,
And so by buying my product, you're going to get compliant marketing, compliant messaging. We can help you in so many different ways. We can talk about how to price your products, how to make money on the clinic. And then lastly, I've got access. I've got almost 100 medical providers in my network that have been doing this with me for many years.
yep,
I have several different medical directors, and we give free peer-to-peer um, one-to-one training with docs. So you can get all the, relatively 30,000-foot view for me, but I'm not a medical doctor. So if somebody says I need to train my staff on, what supplies and how much saline do I mix with this joint,
yeah,
I'm not going to tell you that, but I'm going to give you one of the best, if not the best, in the United States regenerative medicine doc that trains all day long, trains doctors. So
yeah,
it's almost like a business in a box.
yep.
Yeah.
That's awesome. I want to touch on one thing. So what do you have to, obviously you're one of on the frontier of stem cells and regenerative, like you truly are, right? For all the listeners, what do you say to some of the skeptics out there for you that say, hey, this guy that did sales, he's not even a medical doctor, he's on the frontier of, offering this care to tens of
Mhm.
thousands of people? What do you have to say to them?
First and foremost, I really don't try to play doctor.
Yeah.
Um, I'm not going to be the one that shows up at your house or your office or your clinic in
Yeah.
scrubs and a needle.
Yep.
So you'll never hear me get overly specific when it comes to protocols because I don't play doctor. So I try to talk about what I know, what I can control in the space, and I'm not afraid when somebody says, "Well, what about this condition?" Well, I don't know, but I'll try to find somebody who does know. So that would be the first thing, and then the second one would just be like the results
Speak for
speak
them.
for themselves, and I've got thousands of we've got hundreds and hundreds of med spas and doctors and hospitals that buy our products, use it, get great patient results. So
Yeah.
that's on the wholesale B2B side. But I've got pro sports teams. I
Yep.
mean, HIPAA laws don't let me really tell you here how many really, really, really cool high level athletes have used my products.
A lot.
But it's like if it's good enough for them, sports teams, celebrities, influencers, high level entrepreneurs, I would just say it kind of speaks for itself. I've been in the space over 8 years and have managed to stay out of any type of regulatory trouble. And, if people don't get the results they want, we have phenomenal, recourse for that. So patient outcomes is still, it is the most important thing in medicine. I know business and money, I could talk about it all day long,
Yeah.
but none of that's going to last.
Yeah.
None of that will last if you don't get patient outcomes and if you don't stay compliant. I know that.
Yeah.
And I've been in it more than a year. I plan on staying in it. So
Yeah.
it's not just to make a quick buck.
Years, yeah, absolutely. And one thing, I want to applaud you for is obviously it's all about relationships, right? These
Mhm.
people, these patients, they want to have good relationships. And I feel like doctors sometimes, they don't have that. That's not how they're wired. So they want to work with people that they like. And, what you've
Mhm.
done is made it extremely convenient. Like obviously, even with having NPs go to their house, I want you to touch on that for the guests as well. And, for someone like myself, I rather deal with you, and then I know you have obviously the backing of over 100 doctors and get stem cells for you because I know the relationship will be there versus going to a doctor that's just going to be talking in medical lingo for 20 minutes that I'm not going to understand, right? But yeah,
Right.
touch on some of the things that you've done where you've made it extremely convenient for a lot of your patients.
Yeah, so we talked in the beginning about education was the first barrier for most people,
Yeah.
which is why whether it's seminars or ads or virtual one-on-one, we're going to educate a person so that they can be in the position to buy. But the second part is access.
Yep.
We've already touched on how you don't have to go to Panama, Costa
Yeah.
Rica, Tijuana, but you don't even have to go anywhere. Like my direct to consumer marketing companies called Regenerative Revival. And I've got relationships, I got 50 state medical director, got nurse practitioners in every state. So
Yeah.
if you're sitting here watching this in Las Vegas
Yeah.
and you're like, you know what, I've got a bad knee. I trust this guy Seth to do it. What do I do next? I'll actually send a nurse practitioner right to your home or office. They'll bring the product.
Yep.
They'll do the injection in 20 to 30 minutes, and you don't even have to go anywhere. So concierge, white glove, regenerative therapy, stem cell therapy, whatever you want to call it. That's what I've built up the last 8 years. So that's one of the reasons athletes and influencers like working with me is because most people, if they can, they'd rather not sit at a clinic waiting room for an hour,
Yeah.
see the doctor for 3 minutes when they put a needle in you and then send you home. So if we can
Yeah.
just get it right to you, that's better.
Yeah.
And then the other thing too, so many people hear concierge medicine and they think, well, yeah, you must be the most expensive person in town because you would think a concierge doctor is going to be the most. Well, it's actually the opposite. One of the reasons I'm so competitive pricing is because rather than having 250 brick and mortar clinics with high leases and salaries and all that stuff, I don't have that overhead. I've got the product. The nurse practitioners are contracted, so I'm not paying 100 salaries a year. I pay them per patient.
Yep.
So it actually keeps my overhead really low by having a mobile, like a telehealth model.
Yep.
And that's why we're less expensive, higher dosage, and you get better service.
I love that. Especially for people like us, we're all about convenience, right? And
Yeah.
and if it's, the pricing is competitive, if not better, all day.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where I love, where this telehealth world is going. Let's talk about, regulatory. Where do you
Mhm.
think stem cells in this regenerative space is going to be in the next even like 1 to 2 to 3 years?
Yeah, I think that as more and more people get into it, part of it is this administration has been pretty vocal about being more open to things like peptides and stem cell therapy. So more people that were maybe sitting on the sidelines are like, I'm all in.
Yeah,
That's good. But what we're hearing, and I know you know this too, is all right. So we're not going to restrict providers and patients from having access to these phenomenal therapies,
yeah,
but we probably need to start. We meaning the powers that be, FDA, things like that, they're probably going to start, and I think they are going to start trying to get a little bit less of a Wild West approach
yeah,
and
yeah,
get a little bit more uniformity when it comes to patient data protocols. So I've gotten way ahead of that
yeah,
with some of the stuff we've done with some of your partners, but compliance, I think it's going to be a lot tighter, but not necessarily in a bad way. I think what it'll do is it'll stop people from charging 5 times more for the same thing. It'll
yeah,
stop people making promises that they shouldn't be. There's stem cells are amazing, but I've had people that are like, hey, I talked to this other company. They said they can guarantee the tumor in my lungs is going to go away if I get an exosome. Well, just because I mean, it might. God, I hope so.
yeah.
But so there needs to be some reining in on the
Bad apples out.
yeah,
Yeah,
get the bad apples out. I'm not against them, getting more compliant because the people that are really in it for the right reasons and have set up the systems, it's probably good for me,
yeah.
selfishly.
It is. It's huge, man. And we talk about it using compliance, not being scared of it, but using it to get ahead, right? And that's why we built all the things that we built. It's this whole space is wild. Not even just stem cells, but overall longevity. I mean, you have freaking, I was talking to Sean about this. You have kids on TikTok that are 17, 18 years old selling Bretta that are
Yeah,
research sites.
right. Yeah,
Like what?
yeah,
So
yeah, yeah. Like
it's
young 20-year-old gym bros
yeah, it's
pinning
wild.
Retta and showing off their abs and shit. Yeah,
Yeah,
wild.
yeah, it is very wild, but it's an exciting space, man. I love that, you've probably had, I don't know, tens, if not hundreds of thousands of patients at this point. So it's exciting. What are next steps for you? Like, what do you, obviously stem cells, you're at the
Yeah.
frontier of that. What are things you want to do next in
I
business?
want to get I want to help as the industry gets as more and more providers, med spas, things like that, they want to get into the industry. I'm going to throw my hat in the ring, obviously, to use my products. But
Yeah,
again, like I said earlier, I'm not just a product guy. Like I'm not gatekeeping everything that I've learned. So
yeah,
you want to learn how to make money, get great patient outcomes, offer better services, bring your revenue up. Talk to me if you're a provider, you want to get in the space. If you're already in the space, you want better products, more access to training,
yeah,
a better community. That's a huge thing. So I want to grow my distribution wholesale business. I want to build my personal. I've been getting more and more influencers. I'd like to get more sports. I'm continuing to work more with pro athletes. I'm hoping to get into like the NFL retirement community, NBA, Players Association, things like that. So I've got some big moves that I'm shooting for in 2026.
I love that, man. You're very, we're obviously both mutually always aligned in business and always thinking multiple steps ahead. So that's awesome.
Ambition, ambition,
Absolutely.
ambition.
Absolutely. Now, yeah, amazing stuff, man. Thank you for doing this, to say the least. How we like to usually end the podcast is, the previous guest, who actually is your medical director, funny enough, Dr. Sean Aurora. He asks a blind question to the next guest, and then I'm gonna tell you what that question is for you. He doesn't know that you're the guest, and then I'm gonna leave it up to you after that to ask another question for the next guest that's gonna be on the podcast. So the question that he asked, funny enough, is, where do you see the biggest risk in the telehealth space?
Ooh. I would say the biggest risk, without getting too specific, would be over regulation to the
Over
point where it
regulation.
made it, like, I don't think this would happen, but what if they said, what if they just banned peptides or said,
Yeah.
I'm not saying it would happen. What if they said umbilical cord tissue is we no longer consider that to be not a drug. So if you want to sell it, you have to get drug approval. That would be like,
It's happening, man.
for me, like the word, like what would be the nuclear option would be a complete
Yeah. It's
over regulation. I don't think it's going to happen, but
it's actually happening. There's talks and different things. I think Texas changed a rule for med spas. So, there's obviously a lot of states that have the PCMSO model. but a lot of them are starting to say you have to be a dermatologist now, not even a medical
Yeah.
doctor to own a med spa, which is wild to me because it's like, there's so many things outside of skincare that are offered within a med spa, stem
Mhm.
cell.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
so yeah, I feel you on that one. What is your blind question for the next guest? It can be anything.
And I don't get to know what the guest.
Nope, blind guest, man. And then yeah,
um. Okay. I would say, what is what is one thing that you can learn from your competition for the better? Like, what is one thing you could get from one of your competitors? And without saying who the competitor is and pimping them on the
yeah,
pod,
yeah.
what is it? What is one thing that you could get out of the competitor that would actually complement your business? I don't know if that's good, if that's a good question or not, but
What can you? Yeah, absolutely. What can you learn
yeah.
from your competitor?
Because I mean, I say that generally speaking, just business in general. One of my mottos is what one man can do. Like for me, anyways. Maybe I have too much of an ego, but part of
Yeah.
what drives me is what one man can do, so can I.
Yep.
So maybe the way I said the competition thing, but it's like if I see somebody doing something, especially if it's within my space,
Yeah.
it's not that I think a lot of people can eat in just about any field, so it's not even necessarily like steal from your competitor. But there's times I'll see people even in my space posting about something, doing something different. I'm like, okay, well, rather than getting defensive,
Yeah.
why can't I do that too? Why aren't I making these types of posts? Why aren't I going after this group?
Yeah.
So something like
Yeah.
that.
It's a thing where I always ask myself, it's like if my competition is doing something, I know, and this isn't, not even ego, I know I can do it better because I'll
Yeah.
put in more work.
Yeah.
Not because I'm just better or anything. I know whatever amount of work that they put in, and this is something I've had. I know you have it too. That's why I'm bringing it up. Is we'll outwork anybody.
Yeah. Yep.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Great,
Absolutely.
man. Well, thank you for your time. The king of stem cells, to say the least, Seth Berge, you guys.
See ya.
Yeah.